Hello, everyone. Welcome to the You Are Approved podcast.
Yes, welcome.
So today I have a guest on here, Miss Brandi Pickett, that we'll be interviewing today. And so it is Women's History, or should I say, Her Story Month. So in honor of Women's Her Story Month, we're going to be interviewing women. Well, the podcast is about interviewing women, but we really want to highlight the stories of our women that we're going to be interviewing. So Miss Brandi Pickett here, who came from Tampa, by the way.
Yes.
So she traveled.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely,
The
absolutely.
journey is always worth it.
Yes,
Yes.
it definitely is. And so we're going to just be going through her career, how she got to where she is. We're going to talk about her family life, what that has consisted of along this journey, even till what that is consisting of right now, and just going through her story.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I'm not gonna have you all here long today. Before I do get into Brandy's story and everything, I just want to highlight that I am a part of Women's Council here in Orlando, Women's Council of NARAB, and we are having an event this week at the Propagate in Apopka. So if you are in the Orlando area or in the Apopka area, please feel free to come out. We're gonna have drinks. It's gonna be a bunch of women and ladies in red. We're gonna be beautiful, celebrating, and men are invited as well. And for our women, we are going to have a special drink
Okay.
for you. That's going to be a red drink.
Nice.
And for those who can't drink, we'll have our mocktails. So if you are here, we definitely want to see you out and come join us. We're an organization that is real estate focused. As we know, real estate is a predominantly male dominated industry. And so we want to highlight and celebrate women being in the industry as well, and the strides that we are making and have made as women in real estate. So come out and help us celebrate. Fellas, y'all are invited too. There are going to be a lot of beautiful ladies. So come on out. But let's
Now
go
they'll
ahead.
show up. That's all
Yes.
you have to say.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started with Brandy.
Yes.
So
Well, thank you so much for having me, Kiana. I love what you all are doing. Even with the Scots, everything that you all are doing with just education, information, and just letting people of color, know, um, or at least have access to the resources to put their life together, so that it can be structured in a way that is more meaningful, right? That generational wealth and accounting and mortgages and credit and just all of those things that help propel us, to be stronger, for generations to come. So shout out to y'all in the skies. Thank you all so much for having me as always. Y'all, it smells so good in here. I thought I was gonna walk in and it was gonna be some food the way it smells so good in here. I think I'm too late from my drive, so next time I'll definitely be about 30 minutes ahead so I can.
yes. Okay. So Brandy here is a dear friend of mine, you all, and I'm so honored to have her. I'm so happy that she even took my invite to come and be on the podcast today to just share her story. She has a story that will inspire and motivate you. She's a very driven woman. She is a woman who is about family. And I am so excited to just be able to share her story with the world.
Well, thank you so much. And I first want to say, I appreciate that, especially coming from Kiana. So me and Kiana met almost 5 years ago on social media. I'm a loan officer, she's a loan officer, right? And just through sharing posts or engaging in social media, I see this beautiful young Black woman who's out here just grinding, and she's at these events and she's networking. And I'm like, who is this woman? I like sent her a message, and one day ended up driving to Orlando to have lunch with her at her home. And fast forward 5 years, like now we're friends. So just saying that to say, like, you never know when people or how people may come into your life. And this was, and that's also the power of social media, right? I'd never seen her, in a physical presence, but some of the evidences that she was leaving on social media and just sharing, even though some may look at it as saying, oh, if you're the same thing, isn't that like competition? But no, collaboration, and that takes power of that. Where a lot of, marketing and just talking to people and networking and connecting the dots. Whereas I'm like the underwriter and what's the DTI and the ratios, and just being able to combine your skills and your resources together. That's what strengthens us. And I wish, especially women, especially Black women, I wish we could do more of that, because we definitely could be a lot stronger. We are stronger together, like
Absolutely.
we really are. So that's just kind of a background of how we met. And when she says we are dear friends, we are. And being able to share my story with people in a sense of, when they see this Black girl with tattoos and, big bamboo earrings and braids, it's like, oh, what does she do? What does she have going on, right? But they don't even realize that I'm kind of the only one in my building that looks like this. There are Black VPs in corporate America. There are Black females in corporate America. And the thing of it is, I read this quote and it stuck with me because I could resonate with it. It says, especially in North America, right? It's not brains or talent that gets you ahead. It's tenacity and guts. Mm. So you could have a PhD and an MBA and a doctor this and a doctor that, and oh, I have all this talent, but if you're just sitting on it and no one knows, right? You don't have the guts to position yourself for the opportunities to be able to share it, or to be able to market it, or to be able to tell people, hey, I've never done that, but I want to learn, and I have the ability to think strategically in other situations, right, where I can leverage that thinking and problem solving in pretty much anything, right? So a lot of skills that we have are transferable, but I find that oftentimes we are the ones that put ourselves in boxes. And that's where even at work, sometimes when I run into people, they've been at the firm for, 5 years, and they're like 3 levels under me, and they're like, how did you come in as a C13? Did you apply? No? Well, why not? Well, I didn't think I could. That's the first problem, right? Like, you would be amazed at how many people don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And of course, if we don't believe in ourselves, right, that's where that tenacity or that extra push that you need sometimes, just even if the world says, no, you can't, you don't have this, or you don't fit the look, or you don't fit the tone, or, on paper, you don't have the accolade or the accomplishment, right? Yeah. That's where you have to show up for you and say, despite those things, this is what I do have, and this is what I can offer. And it might be something that they never knew they needed. Right? And it's a thing of being the solution, not finding the solution.
Yes.
In every situation, right? I'll never forget my dad. He told me, work smart, not hard. And the hardest part of working should be figuring out how to work smart. And then once you do that, now you have the mental capacity to do other things and to just, stretch yourself and continue to grow and learn, instead of just, being emotionally, mentally, and then physically just burnt out and overwhelmed. So that's the huge nugget of it is, I will apply for the CEO position if it's posted. Like, requirements are like, this is, everybody wants a unicorn. Like when you're dating, right? What are your requirements? Girl, you're not getting all of that in a man, right? It's the same thing with employers. I mean, of course we envision, oh, this is what this perfect person would be to fit this role. And then it's a thing of sifting through the bold ones, or the ones that you think align on paper, and just having those conversations, and kind of like the look of the draw. But at the end of the day, depending on your faith and who you believe in, know that everything is aligned the way that it should be. So it's just a part of your journey. And if you don't get that role, that's fine. That's fine. Like, take it in stride. The interview was practice. for the one that I'm supposed to have.
Yeah.
And then once that opportunity presents itself and you're prepared, that's like Nipsey, when opportunity meets preparation, that's when you like have success. So just always stay ready.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I have really loved about Brandi and meeting her is that she always continued to strive beyond no matter what. I remember it was tons of conversations that we would have, and she'll always be like, "Oh, but you got a degree and you went to college and everything, and I don't have one." And she would just tell me about how she continued to believe and push through, even if the job description did say like there's a degree or you need experience. So she always took that leap and always made sure that even if it didn't look like she qualified on paper, if it was something that she wanted, she did what she needed to do to go after it. So
yeah, and I want to speak on that. So in high school, I was an overachiever, upward bound. Shout out to Tech. I went to Tech. I'm a Titan. So graduated, received the Florida Bright Future Scholarship, went to Florida State University on a full ride, plus some extra stuff, had a brand new apartment, a car, money. I was living the life and doing everything I was supposed to instead of going to class. Right, good old Tallahassee. Stayed, on the other side of the tracks at the family events. I'm at the yard. I'm at the, you name it, Chubby's. We the boom there, right? Living this life, and I think something that stuck with me was when I opened up the mail one day from Florida State, and I received a letter of dismissal, saying that I was dismissed and I couldn't come back until I had my associate's degree. That was the first humbling experience that I've ever had in life. Because up until that point, it was like, okay, I'm doing good. I barely study, but I'm still knocking it out. I'm killing it. I'm living good. How many freshmen got cars? Not a lot, because I would be like the taxi, or you want to go here? Okay. Like I literally was so humbled in that moment when I read that. Because it was a thing of, that first experience of showing you like, no, you have to work to stay in your position. And you may think you're rolling up in there and you're here, but getting somewhere and staying somewhere is two different things.
Absolutely.
And sometimes what you have to do to stay in a position may require more than what it took to get there. That sustainability and going to the next level and accomplishing and completing is oftentimes the hardest part. Starting is, you have to start. But when you start, what are you doing when you get in that room?
Mm-hmm.
Are you just sitting there? Because just like at that university, you're a number on a piece of paper. And if you aren't, doing your part, they will move on to the next person and you will just be dismissed.
So let me ask you then, so you said that you were still being able to somewhat pass class. Did they dismiss you because your attendance or because you started failing your classes, or both?
I started failing as a result of my attendance.
Okay.
You start, it was a thing of, I'll go tomorrow. I'll go next week. And then before you know it, you're like, dang, I haven't been in class. So now that I am going, my grades and just, the GPA and everything. And that was it. But I had a great time and I learned a lot. And my mama came and picked me up. I'll never forget. She rented a van and knocked at my door one day. And I'm like, what are you doing here? That's a 4-hour job. You didn't tell me you were pulling up. Exactly. All of this, bag it up, box it up. You going back with me. And then that day changed my life, because when I got back to my mom's house, my main goal was getting up out of there at that point. I had already had a taste of freedom. I lived by myself. I've been, making my own rules, doing whatever I wanted to do. And now it's a thing of, you're back home with your mom. You have a curfew, you thought you was grown, but now you humbled again, right? So I'm back in Tampa and I'm like, I need to get up out of my mom's spot, because all of that, you coming in my house late or you driving my car and that I need me. So I'll never forget, I got a temp job, like temp contractor. And it was for a countrywide home loan. That was back when, the paper applications. It wasn't a computer application. It was the loan officers would take it on paper and we had to input it, in the system. And that was the best job ever because it changed my life. Not only was I able to make decent money to, get my own car, get my own place, but I was introduced to the mortgage industry. And I was introduced to the mortgage industry from inputting applications. And what that does is it gives you perspectives and it shows you snippets of people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does.
And
you get all up in people's business.
You get all up in people
from all classes and walks of life.
Yes, absolutely. But the thing of it is, like, I just had a friend tell me today that 3/5 of reality is perception. So when you're looking at something, what are you looking at? And at first it was just a job, right? I'm just putting in information. But then I'm like, no, Brandi, this is more than information. How can you look at this information and structure your life or pick up some of these pieces? These are clues, right? Because you see, depending on what they're purchasing, or you see these assets and these portfolios of successful people, and you're like, okay, they this is kind of like the blueprint. They're living pretty good. Credit's nice. Oh wow, okay, they've been at this job for X amount of time, and they've been on business or whatever that looks like. But being able to be introduced to different life scenarios and life situations, or even seeing, wow, this person had a bankruptcy, but they're still able to purchase a home. Like, how does that happen? Oh, wow, Fannie Mae has a waiting period. So your life isn't over after you do that. Oh, wow, go FHA, 2 years.
Yeah. And I think for me, being able to see those things is really motivating, because oftentimes you get so many people that come to you with bad credit, right, or their financial situation is just in a disarray, and they're like frantic, like, oh, I'll never be able to do this, I can't do this, blah blah blah. Even times where people came to me with bad credit and they're like, I want to buy a home, right? And I'm like, you can buy a home. I may have helped them with a couple of things to do on their credit to get them into a home, but just like you said, being able to see the financial picture of people who come from all different walks of life, and so many backgrounds, go through things over time, because a credit report is a picture of what one go through and how they are able to come through, how they may have gone through bankruptcy or may have gone through job loss that put them in a rut, and then they're able to rebuild and regain and be able to still bounce back. Right, and bounce back. Right. Those things are important. They're so important because that lets you know that no matter what you go through, there is still opportunity for you to be able to live a nice life, or build wealth for your family and so forth. So I really enjoy being able to see that, how people, have gone through different phases of life that may have taken them out, and they've been able to bounce back or come back.
And I mean, I think that's what it's all about too, right? Just in life, and especially this month as we celebrate, Women's Month, it's all about the bounce back. It's all about the comeback. It's all about loving yourself enough to do what you need to do for you,
and believing in yourself.
And believing, it starts with that, honestly, because I feel like sometimes we don't give ourselves enough grace. We don't give ourselves enough grace, or it's like you have this obligation of being this wife and this mother and this woman to the world, that sometimes you don't give yourself enough grace to be you. Right? And how can I be the best mother, woman, or wife, VP, or loan officer, networker, realtor? I'm all these things, but at the end of the day, like, who am I? Am I happy, like, genuinely, with the things that are just attached to me? And it gets to a point where you have to identify that when things don't serve you, whether it's your job, relationships, you have to give yourself grace to be able to make that transition. And you know what? Another thing I want to shout out, I've been doing therapy, counseling. Shout out to, that's a real thing. And I think people think something is wrong with talking to somebody. You can talk to your homegirls, you can talk to your mom, you can talk to your spouse, you can talk to your siblings, but there's nothing like talking to a licensed, trained professional. And it's the tools, the skills, the self-reflection, the work that you are required to do Whereas, when I'm talking to Kiana, she's gonna, she listen and she say, yeah, girl, do your thing. But it's different, when you have someone who this is their specialty, and they're actually giving you homework that makes you really dig and get to the root of situations that could impact other situations, right? It's all like it's a root. So the tree might have all these different stems, and sometimes you need to get to the root of it to be able to get that weed out the way. And it's doing that deep work. So I definitely encourage women, men, everybody, your children, get it for your kids, and a lot of us, depending on where you work, you may have access to the EAP program where you may get, free sessions to at least start that dialogue and just have those conversations. Or, if you're afraid to, not afraid, but don't really have the space to talk to your children, just sign them up, have them talk to somebody to make sure that they're good, and that, just keeping that line of communication open and understanding that mental health is real. Emotional abuse is domestic violence. But the thing of it is, when we are emotionally or mentally abused or have trauma, people can't see it, right? Because it's internal. So it's not unless you have like a black eye that I'm like, Kiana, you're physically abused, right? Because of the visual that I see. But people don't see what is inside of you, right? And oftentimes, depending on you and what you have going on, you may be busy and always at an event, and you're with the kids, and you're so distracted by life and smiling that you're masking your internal trauma that you have, and people don't even know. Like, no, you may as well have two black eyes, but they don't see it. So we do have to check on our strong friends. And we also have to understand that emotional and mental, situations is real, and it needs to be acknowledged. And there is work that can be done and that should be done to just be a better person for yourself first.
Yes, I agree. I took therapy about 2 years ago. I took therapy, and it changed my life. It definitely helped. Along with therapy, I also did the deep work that I needed to do outside of therapy. But doing the deep work coupled with therapy,
Right.
I feel like really did help me go through a whole
Why do you
renewal.
think black people don't do therapy as much?
Just the stigma
Or is it
around
that
it.
they just don't talk about it?
I think it's
Or
more
we
so a stigma. I think as black people, especially black women, we have been taught to be strong, to not
mm.
allow the world to
And now
see
we try to
our
walk in our
weakness.
soft life, right? Yes, I want to be soft, baby. Soft with me.
Now we're going back to that, but for so long we have been taught to be strong,
Yes.
and especially because of the brunt of things we've had to go through with racism or just societal norms and societal pressures, we have told not to let our tears show, not to let it be seen that we're crying or we're hurting or we got to carry everything and everyone,
Right.
in order for things to keep moving and continue spinning. So
Yeah.
I think that, but now that social media, in the age of social media, things are being more highlighted and there is more awareness around therapy and the struggles that we go through just as women in general.
Right.
And the soft life has been born out of all of that,
Right.
including pushing therapy.
Yes.
So,
and I'm glad that therapy is a part of that, because honestly, that's the key, right? How can you be soft? How can you be, which when you think about what does that look like? That's being defenseless. That's being like not being on edge. Even your tone, your delivery, understanding that being aggressive does not necessarily represent strength. Like you can have a whisper and still mean what you say and get your point across.
yes,
Right. But it's that indoctrination that we have, like you said. It's like being aggressive, being loud, and then that does kind of bleed over to almost like a stereotype, even in corporate America, where you're the loud black girl, that rolls her neck when we get on a Zoom call when she doesn't get her way. And I mean, it may be true. So, that's where, having that balance of maintaining professionalism, but still being authentic to yourself is important, because when they see that, they know, okay, Brandi means what she's saying. And, it's just a tone and a certain delivery. But I think it's a thing of us finding balance in having that voice, but still being able to, be soft and be feminine and just be,
Okay, I agree. And speaking of balance, I want to talk a little bit about balance. But before we get into that, I do want to take a quick commercial break, you guys. We're going to play a little commercial here about Scott Capital Finance, which is the company that I am a mortgage loan officer for. And so we just want to give you all a little commercial, and then we'll be right back. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed the commercial, because, as you know, Scott Capital Finance is the company I'm a loan officer for, and we do commercial lending and we do residential. And so I just wanted to share that with you. So now we're going to get into Brandi's balance, and when it comes to family and her career, how she has been able to navigate that, what that has looked like, and even speak a little bit about in the workplace, like what you experienced as being the only woman of color, or black woman rather, because I think there's probably women of color.
Yeah.
Or black woman rather,
right.
in corporate America. So.
Yeah, and I think it also kind of goes along with what we were previously discussing too, right? That strength and being strong. And so for me, balance. When we think about balance, sometimes when you think about it too much, that's where it becomes overwhelming, right? It's a thing of prioritizing and being organized in your life and creating the balance that you want to have. Like, you have to be in control of your life. You cannot allow your life to control you. And I think having that perspective allows me to be intentional with my task, the things that I allow to consume me, right? Because everybody gets 24 hours in a day. What do you do with it? Like, what time do you wake up? Do you need an alarm? Do you hit snooze? Like, what does that look like for you? Because, like, when you just wake up at 5:15 in the morning, no alarm, ready to go to the gym or run or just talk to God or whatever that looks like for you, you're probably already 4 hours ahead, or 2 hours ahead of the next person who's waking up at 7 and hitting snooze 3 times. So I think just being intentional and every day waking up with a purpose of trying to move forward, it allows you to just wake up and be present. Like, you have to be present, because things will pass you by so fast that before you know it, you've accomplished these things, or your children have grown, and you've just been working with your head down the whole time, and you never really had a chance to, really enjoy what that looks like and what that means. So for me, having work-life balance is super important. Of course, with even prior to COVID, I've been blessed to have opportunities where I've been remote or, hybrid, where I'm still able to attend, basketball games or practices or, cook dinner at night and, do homework with the kids and things that are important to me. Because when my kids grow up, they're going to get to a point where they don't want to hang out with me anymore. I'm not cool. They have friends in the life, and I respect that. We all go through that. But in the meantime, while I'm able to enjoy those moments, is the thing of understanding that there are opportunities available to you for you to create a schedule that will allow you to be the mom, the wife, the whatever it is, the partner, or whatever your situation looks like, so that you can have that work life. You have to create the balance. You have to create the balance in your relationship. You have to create the balance at work, whether you're self-employed, whether you're a business owner, or whether you are employed. Like, you have to, and you do that by setting boundaries, right?
What does those boundaries look like?
So setting boundaries look like, first, I need to know what my boundaries are. You have to know what your boundaries are and be able to identify those. And then you can communicate them. But you can't not communicate them because you don't even know what they are, but you just feel like somebody's pushing them and now you mad because they're pushing your boundaries. But you have to have the emotional intelligence and the maturity, I think, and also just the self-awareness to be able to identify what those look like for you.
Yeah.
Because my boundaries might not look like Kiana's boundaries. And then being able to articulate it in a way where it's understood for, your boss, or so maybe at work, you're doing awesome on all the projects. So now they want you to do all the work. Yeah. That's usually what happens, right? The best worker is usually rewarded with the work, right? And it's the one that's subpar, that's chilling and gets to leave first because no one wants him to touch the projects because he's not that good, but he does just enough to skate by, right? And it's like, hey, that's not fair. It's not, but that's the reality of things. So how do you set the boundary to say, yes, I will still be a top performer. I will still, demonstrate excellence in everything that I do and everything that my name is attached to, but I will not allow you to overwhelm me. Mm-hmm. Like, and be okay with saying no.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the thing too. Like, oftentimes we're afraid to say no because we're like, oh, I don't know if this might come around again. Or listen, what's meant for you, it'll come. You'll have it exceedingly and abundantly.
Absolutely.
So, it's about boundaries and balance. And oftentimes people might respect that no more so than somebody that's just taking on everything and trying to do the most. And it's, like, what's the quality like at that point? Because a no just might be, it could be a not right now. But when I get to you, it's going to be so worth the wait.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's where, with boundaries, it's a thing of you identifying what that needs to, like, what do you need from situations and how can you create that and then articulate that to the people, in that situation to stand on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I have admired about you, even having, your career and where you're at now, is that, like you said, you having those boundaries have allowed you to be able to have a very flexible life. Oftentimes, when you see people in your position, they don't have a flexible schedule or a flexible life. They're pretty much tied down with work, or they're a slave to their job and their position. And it's not as appeasing as it is if you have, I don't even want to say the flexibility, but I'll say more so the comfort of your lifestyle, what that looks like. Because earlier we were talking about what success means.
Right.
And I think that success is being able to formulate a life where you can still be able to, like we mentioned last time, pay your bills.
Right.
And still be able to enjoy family and do things with your children at home. To me, that's success. It don't have to be you're a millionaire, right, or you're making tons of money and everything, yes, in order for you to be successful. Success is whatever you determine for it to be,
right?
Which could be just, I'm living a comfortable life because all my bills is paid, my children and my family is not wanting for anything.
Well, I first want to say this: paying our bills is sustaining, surviving. We have to allow ourselves. We have to put ourselves in position to stop being in survival mode.
True.
Being in survival mode will never get anybody ahead or comfortable. It's hard to be comfortable when you're trying to survive. You're trying to survive. You may make certain decisions, or you may have to do, certain things out of survival mode versus if you were in comfort zone.
Yeah.
So I think that's the first thing, right? Like, is being uncomfortable, because that's probably where the change or where the breakthrough is. And I think you and I had a conversation the other day about change. And we were saying how we were talking about transition, right? And we said that transition is moving from one point to another, and that is a process. And I reminded you that a process is a temporary thing. That means that you are changing, you are growing, you are evolving, you are stretching. It's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? But that means that you are not staying in the place where you've been, and that's fine. You're supposed to do that. But we have to get out of being in survival mode, and that's the mentality.
Yeah. And I think that sometimes you will go through a transition or process or uncomfortability for a period of time. And comfortability and survival mode are two different things.
Yeah.
So you can be going through survival mode and then get into a more comfortable place where now
your decision making is changing.
You're able to pay your bills. You're able to not want for anything. You're able to travel if you want to and take a vacation.
Right.
Those are what I would define as success.
Yes.
And of course, success means different things for different people. Some people may say, well, success for me is being able to buy nice things,
right,
and drive a nice car and live in a big house that I gotta slave,
right, to keep,
but
I'm in here
and to sustain.
Right.
To me, that ain't necessarily success.
Right.
But to each his own. That's
right.
Everybody's different. So.
And that's the good thing about, success, right? It's not quantified or defined based off of a black and white definition or number. It is subject to the individual to define what that looks like. And with that, it's up to you to also create that. So if you define it, then you create it. And like you said, success to you may not look the same for me. And that's all a part of what makes us individuals and what makes us all have, different journeys. And we have gifts, all have different gifts, right? So what do you do with that gift to allow you to feel like, what do they say? When you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And tapping into that gift and sharing that gift, whether it's through education, information, or providing a service or whatever that is that you're able to do to leverage that gift and share it. Now you don't feel like you're working per se. So now that kind of helps you get out of survival mode because you're walking in your purpose of sharing that gift and helping people. And now the money's coming because you're being blessed as a result of sharing your gift. Right. And now you're walking into that success that you envision for yourself because of the purpose that you are just walking in and being able to share that and help people. And oftentimes you don't even realize what you're doing until you see it in other people.
Right. And I think that in order to reach that level, you have to know who you are deep down inside. You have to know what it is that you want and what defines you.
Right.
Because you can't go peeping in Mary Jane's backyard trying to see what she has.
You don't know what that lady going through and what she doing.
You got to know what you have.
Right.
You got to understand the power within yourself.
Yes.
And as just with it being Women's History Month, and this goes for period beyond Women's History Month, but specifically, I want to highlight that we as women have to get to a point where we understand and know who we are,
right?
So that can show in our life. Not doing what the next one is doing, not being jealous or trying to attain what somebody else has attained to reach. Your own journey is for you. What God has for you. You have your own specific and unique purpose, whatever that is. Just like Brandi stated, whatever talents and treasures that God has blessed you with, you have to know what those are. And sometimes if you are too busy slaving for a job, whether that's in corporate America or as a self-employed person, slaving for your family, because yes, we can't slave for our family,
right.
and slaving for just everything up under the moon,
Not
then
setting
you're not
boundaries.
taking the time to understand who you are and what it is that you need for you to truly be happy and for
Right.
you to truly excel and be able to define that level of success that you see fit for yourself. So that's very important.
It is.
And I just want to say, Brandi, with you doing, being able to get to the place where you are in life and everything, all the steps and the journeys and the transitions that you have had to go through, I'm very proud of you
Thank
because I know that it has not been easy
No.
trying to obtain and get to where you are, but I know that on this journey, you have been able to remain true to yourself. And that's what I have always appreciated about you. Like, no matter what, no matter what, people may have said or, people may have thought about you, you have always remained you no matter what. And I respect that. Like, I love that about you because sometimes, so often, we conform to be able to fit in these spaces
Right.
and fit in these rooms to the point where we lose ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not conducive for our life and where we're trying to go and who we are meant to become and the purpose that God has for us in our life and the people around us.
I want to say this. I know this has definitely been a great conversation, and I could talk to you all day, Kiana. And that's one thing that I do want to say. It's so important who you have in your life and around you. You want to have people that are transparent with you enough to call you out when you are not, right or what have you, but also there to love you and be a pillar and be able to share ideas and visions and be able to talk about family and love and money and success. And it's not just about partying and hanging out, right? It's about having a friend that you can consult and just sometimes just listen, and they are there to be encouraging and supportive of whatever your crazy idea is at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever that looks like. It's important to have those people in your life, but it's also just as important to be that person in someone else's life, because it's all about reciprocity, right? You put out what you get back. But I want to say this, right? So I have a phobia of bridges. I don't like bridges. And about a month ago, I was invited to come to St. Pete. I got on the Skyway, one of the tallest bridges in this area. And as I'm driving up this bridge, my hands are trembling, they're sweating, and I'm so anxious. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? And all I could think is, okay, just stay in your lane and keep looking straight. As I'm driving up the bridge, you get to a point where you can't see what's behind you anymore because of the concrete, because the bridge is behind you, right? So you're just focused on going straight. Now I'm focused on not just going straight, but staying in my lane. Staying in my lane, going straight. Now it's to the point where I'm not even looking back anymore because I know subconsciously it's a bridge behind me. I can't see anything. So now I'm not even looking back in my rear view. I'm just focused on what's ahead of me. I get to a point on the bridge, I'm at the top, and I'm starting to go down a little bit. I'm like, oh, I need to take my foot off the gas because the momentum from the bridge is excelling by itself. Let me reduce my control because I'm always in control, right? Let me take my foot off and let the car be the car. Let the car have control. So now I'm focused on staying in my lane, going straight, and not trying to have control. And as I'm doing that and I'm looking ahead, the view is so beautiful. I see $1 million homes and this beautiful water and these palm trees and St. Pete Beach. So much, it's so beautiful to the point that my hands aren't even trembling and sweating anymore. I forgot I was just nervous 2 miles ago, 3 minutes ago on the other side of that bridge. I forgot because now I'm so focused on what's ahead of me that I'm not looking back. I let go of control, stay in my lane, and just focus on the journey. And when I did that day, that like I applied that to my life from now on. Like there's no looking back. What's behind me is gone. stay in my lane, stop trying to have control, and focus on what's ahead of you because the view is so beautiful. But you'll never know if you're too scared to get on that skyway. Just go and, see what's on the other side for you.
Okay, you guys.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to be wrapping up. Brandi, I appreciate you for coming on today and just sharing your life and sharing your story with us and everything. It's been very interesting. But before we wrap up, I'm going to leave you all with a quote today. And so this quote, and thank you to Miss Angela who helped me find this quote. So this quote says, "You may not always have a comfortable life, and you will not always be able to solve all of the world's problems at once, but don't ever underestimate the importance you have, because history has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own." And that quote is by Mrs. Michelle Obama.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yes. The America's first lady.
Yes. So, well, thank you so much for having me. Y'all keep doing what you do. Keep spreading the message to the people. And thank you again.
Absolutely. And that's all right, folks.
All right. See y'all next
Enjoy your evening. Thank you for tuning in.
Look, I know we gotta make a short, not the best. I was like, oh, this is a short. This is very good.